Hello, everyone. Happy Friday evening. So, I don't normally do interviews on a Friday evening, but this one is one that I'm so freaking excited about. I'm just obsessed with talking to Fallon, and you guys are going to absolutely love her. So, we are going to be talking all about calling yourself out on your own bullshit, which is actually pretty in line with this week's content theme that I've been talking about. I've been chatting a lot about just dealing with negativity and not letting negativity ruin the way that you show up. So, I feel like this is a perfect way to end the week. And like I said, you guys are going to absolutely love Fallon. She is the founder of the New You School. And without further ado, let's bring her on. Oops. Hold on. Let's see if I can handle this. Oh, hello.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me, Stephanie. I appreciate you.
Of course. Thanks for being on my interview series. How are you today?
I'm great. I'm in Florida. It's 80 degrees.
Oh my
Uh,
God.
Everything's always great when it's 80 degrees.
Yeah, okay, now you're starting to make me hate you. I was just talking about how much I love you, but now I'm starting to not like you. I'm just kidding. So tell me, I want you to tell everyone a little bit about you. Who are you? What are you all about? Tell us all about the New You School. Tell us all the things.
Yes, and I saw Tim and Sarah and Arcadius join. So hi everyone, and I'm so excited to meet your following, Stephanie, because I absolutely love you and I love your message, and I can't wait to collaborate together. I think that
Oh
we have
yeah.
really think that we have really powerful messaging that's going to help a lot of people. And yeah, so I'm CEO and founder of the New You School, and it's basically a proven shortcut for mental, spiritual, physical, and financial success. And it incorporates all the modalities. So we have mindfulness, Kundalini yoga, dialectical behavioral therapy models, somatic experiencing, which is trauma healing, as well as coaching, just to kind of keep you on track. And it's a community. So it's basically all the modalities into one, to kind of get your shit together in all areas of your life at the same time with little tiny baby steps.
I love it. And it's so in line with my philosophy on life. I'm all about just, improving your life 1% at a time. And so I love that you've been able to take that idea and kind of apply it to every area. Because I know that you talk a lot about, if you try to zero in on one area of your life and you only focus on that, then all the other things end up falling apart. So, can you speak a little bit about how like you've used this philosophy of wanting to tackle everything one baby step at a time, but you tackle it all at the same time rather than letting things fall to the wayside?
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you said that because I had someone in our event last week that was like, I try to tackle one thing at a time, but then, especially if people procrastinate, then they even procrastinate that one thing and then nothing gets done. Um,
Right.
and it really made a difference for me talking to you the other day about the 1% thing because today I was thinking of something I had to do and I'm like, just 1% better. So I just wanted to thank you that you already inspired me just from one conversation with that.
Oh, I
But
love that.
but and I love that coaches, as a coaches, you can still inspire each other, right? And we're still always learning, and it's just amazing. So, yeah. So in the New You School, we tackle one little bit at a time because, for example, like say finances, right, and relationships, all the different areas of your life. We start the first week with just recording your income and expenses, and then after you're in
Right.
the habit of doing that, then the next week we'll have you calculate your debt, and we put all your debts and the interest rates and all that stuff. Then the next week we do your net worth, and then the next
Right.
week we do your monthly budget. So that's just one area of life. But at the same time, that's just one part of the homework, self-care tasks,
Right.
I like to say.
I
But at the
love
same
that.
time, you might have learning to communicate boundaries, for example, on week two, in a way that provides consequences for the person if they don't respect your boundary. But then the next week, maybe it's just sharing how you feel in a vulnerable way using like an I feel statement or something. So you don't have to set like always a harsh boundary. So it's just all these little things that the students learn, and they kind of like compound and build on each other, like compound interest. So by like the 1%, right? So by the end of the 6 months, they're like, their whole life is different in all the areas. And I think it's just about doing the tiny little baby action steps. Like David Allen says in his book, Getting Things Done, if you write like clean your house, the brain is going to be overwhelmed. Like that's too much. But if you write like wash the windows, vacuum the rug in the living room, then, you know, your brain is going to be less overwhelmed and therefore less likely to procrastinate.
That's like one of my absolute favorite examples. And I remember you saying that the other night, and it just, like, I use that example all the time. So it, first of all, it gave me the chills. But second of all, it's like, it's so true, because I find when I'm making my to-do list, I find that so many people, the issue with making to-do lists is they put these big giant items on them, and then they get overwhelmed, and then it's just really hard to get anything done. So if you can take your to-do list, and this is the first of many golden nuggets you guys are going to get out of this conversation, but if you can take your to-do list and take one item on it, or maybe, and you can go through this with each item, can you break it down into 5 smaller micro tasks? And I bet you if you do that, it's no longer going to be sitting on your to-do list for the next 3 months, moving it to the next day. If you can break it into micro tasks and little smaller bits, you are 10 times more likely to actually get it done. Because once you get something started, once you actually take action on it, you're not going to just, you know, do 20% of that bigger task. You're going to end up wanting to get it done. So
100%.
I really like that idea of just compounding your effort.
100%. And it reminds me of when you say you're doing the microtask, you're less likely to avoid it. And you said getting started, because there's a limbic friction in your brain, where your brain actually goes into fight or flight. It's like a huge nervous system response when you're procrastinating something. So that's the same thing. If you have like a big task, like you said, on your to-do list, your brain is going to go, no way, if I start that, like I'm going to die. Like your body actually responds like fight or flight, right? Like danger. So if you can break it down into the micro tasks, it's more manageable. And then your body's not going to want to avoid it so much, because your body's not going to have that physiological reaction with the parasympathetic and sympathetic activation. So we're actually doing brain stuff here.
I love it. So tell me, how does, you know, with the New You School, with everything that you're doing, with like sort of tackling one little bit at a time, but also all at the same time, where does calling yourself out on your own bullshit fall in? Like, how do you encourage your students to call themselves out? Because I can imagine with all the different things that you're tackling, you kind of have to call yourself out, and you got to get really freaking honest with yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for asking that. It's my favorite topic, because I always tell my students they're full of shit. And I'm full of shit, and we're all full of shit. And the more that we can embrace that and acknowledge it and accept it, and not make ourselves wrong, or, you know, maybe not feel shame about it. And even if we do feel shame, maybe like, you know, just allow the shame, right, to process and to feel it. And we don't have to feel shame for feeling shame, right? And that whole pattern. So my first somatic experiencing therapist said to me, like, I fuck up all the time. Everyone fucks up, and that's okay. And how freeing is that? Because so many people like try to be right and try to do the right thing all the time, and they have perfectionist tendencies, and it makes people go crazy, and it puts so much pressure and stress, and then it's more procrastination. And she also said to me one time, wrong again, I'm wrong again. That's my favorite saying. And when she said that to me, I'm like, how is that your favorite saying that you're wrong? Because I was 24, and I was very into like, I know I'm going to be a doctor, psychology doctor, or whatever. So it's so freeing. So it's really, Arcadia said, I'm full of shit, and I'm not ashamed of it.
I love it. Everyone say it out loud. Drop that shit in the chat. I'm full of shit, and I'm not ashamed of it. Own it.
Thank you. That's perfect. Yes. So we do this to ourselves all the time. And one example I like to give is we always have something that we complain about. So for me, it's always my apartment. Like I'm working too much. Like it's easy for me to work, and then like not, put the stuff away, and then it gets overwhelming, right? So
Right.
my complaint is my apartment, but then that's also the reason that like I can't do X, Y, and Z, right? Like I haven't went through my mail because my apartment's a mess and I have to do that first. So, but then I keep myself so busy, it's usually unconsciously, and then we feel like the victim about something, like about our
Right.
schedule or about our life, right? Like, oh, I'm so busy with work, so I can't do my apartment. And then, but there's a positive to it, even if we're not aware of it. And the positive is actually not having to do something we don't want to do, right? And like get out of responsibility for something we don't like feel like doing, or is not enjoyable or
Right.
fun, or like giving us a dopamine hit, and we get to get out of responsibility for doing that. So if you have a complaint, I encourage people to look at the positives of that. So like
Mm-hmm.
why would you possibly keep that pattern going
Right.
unconsciously? Like what are you getting out of it? But the way to get out of it is also looking at the negatives of that, right? So
Right.
for me, if I always have my apartment a mess, in the back of my head, it's like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, right? Versus like when everything's
Right.
clean and put away, I just feel free. So
Right.
we have to look at both sides. Why are we keeping it going? What would the payoff, the positives be? And what are the costs? What are the negatives to that? And that's going to kind of connect in our brain. When we maybe give us more consciousness and more choices around like actually scheduling the time to do the things we don't want to do, or
Right.
realizing, calling ourselves out when we're full of shit because we actually have 30 minutes to tackle this one thing instead of like scrolling on Instagram, for example.
Right. And I love that. So that's again one I feel like you just are in my brain all the time. I really do. Um that like just goes right in line with my way of thinking, which is that you have to understand why something's happening in order to figure out how to tackle it. So like if you understand like why am I avoiding cleaning my apartment, which by the way I do too, not gonna lie, I hate cleaning. Hi mom. My mom just joined.
Hey, Stephanie's mom.
so, um, when you understand why you avoid tackling cleaning your apartment, for example, instead of just like saying, "Oh, I don't want to do that. I don't want to deal with that," and then making yourself feel shitty about it, you are able to open yourself up to what your options are. So, do you want a clean apartment? Probably. But once you understand why it's not clean, you can really get to the root of what's going on there and decide whether you want to be the one to clean it or whether you want to hire out. And I personally hire a cleaning lady every month. I just don't want to deal with that. So
Me too.
it yeah. So it's really good. It's really nice that you say that like, just getting clear on like what are the reasons behind why I'm not doing this. I think that really opens your eyes up to what your options are to deal with that issue.
100%. And it just reminded me of something else I teach. It's like not doing things out of guilt. Because
Mhm.
once you look at it, it's like maybe if you live with someone, right? And maybe like I live with Ginny and my dog, so it doesn't count. But say I lived with someone and I feel like guilty that, the apartment's a mess. So then I feel like I'm cleaning it out of guilt, right? And then that's like a
Right.
bad feeling. It's like, well, what are your options, right? You can outsource, you can not clean. But it's when you have that mindset shift of like, oh no, actually, I want to clean right now
Mhm.
because I can't have the cleaning person come for another 2 weeks, and I don't
Right.
want to live in a mess for 2 weeks. So actually, it becomes empowering. Like I want to do it. So I also have people distinguish like, is it something you are actually doing, in fact, out of guilt? If that's true, then don't do it and figure out another solution. And then you
Right.
might see in that discovery that, oh, actually, you know what, I do want to do this thing. And then it becomes more empowering for you to do it instead of something that you're like, oh, I have to do this thing.
Right. I love it. We relate on so many levels.
I know.
Um, so, you know, I want to switch gears a little bit because um since we're talking about how we're all full of shit, I got to be honest with you guys. I was so full of shit during my first conversation with Fallon, and she called me out for it. And I'm so grateful that she did because now I'm 8 pounds down in the middle of holiday season. And that is after eating my face off during Thanksgiving. I still am down all that weight. And I'm a couple pounds away from my wedding weight, which is insane. Um, so can you talk a little bit about that? Like, let's talk a little bit about how that evolved and how I'm so happy that you called me out on my shit. Speaking of calling us out on our own shit, one of the things that I do is um, I'm sorry, this will make sense in a second. So one of the things that I do is I limit how much time I go on Instagram. And so my Instagram just shut out in the middle of our conversation because I'm over my time limit. So after this, I'll be getting off.
Great. That's amazing. I love when, I'm a nerd about having systems in place, like alarms, like I use Alexa all the time, to remind me of stuff. So that's really, really awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, Alexa, stop. So
there we go.
there she goes. Yeah. So with the nutrition program, what I really got clear about in the new school is we are what we eat. And so many people struggle to get to their ideal body shape. And they think like me before I discovered this program and I created it, it was like, oh, I'm paleo, oh, I'm gluten-free, oh, I'm dairy-free. And I still and not at like my ideal weight, right? So that's really funny. You're taking up all my social media time of the day.
I hope
Great.
we're worth it.
Yes, exactly. We are. Um, so I realized that, and the reason I have it two separate programs, the New School and the New Nutrition, some people do both, some people do one or the other, is because some people that do the New School are resistant to changing their diet, because, I think it's one of the hardest things to do, right? So I discovered this program, I lost 50 pounds in total, which was crazy.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Some people are like, you can't tell, but I can tell from the old picture. But I lost 50 pounds in total, even though I was like gluten-free, dairy-free, managing my macros, like managing my calories, like tracking all that. And what I really found is it's inflammation. So I had like bleeding skin and eczema. I had asthma medicine I had to take, allergy medicine. I had a lot of acne. I had all of these symptoms, which is inflammation. And once I got clear about the foods that weren't causing me sensitivity issues, then all of that went away and the weight just kind of melted off. So now I'm really excited to share that program with other people. And Stephanie, the way I called her out on her shit, which I'm so glad that you appreciate me for. She was like, I want to lose weight, but I want to wait till after the holidays. And I was kind of like, well, why do you want to wait? And she was like, well, I think I can't have both. I can't like eat what I want during the holiday and have my lifestyle and also lose weight. And I was like, well, that's a limiting belief. Like you can have both, and I can help you, show you how. And what if you got to your goal by January instead of waiting until January to start? And, I just want to thank you for being open and coachable. Like I try to be with other coaches, right? When I took your 1%.
Right.
So I just want to acknowledge you for that, because a lot of people, get defensive, but that's how we grow, right? Being open to hearing other alternatives. And I'm so happy that now you're able to have it all and feel really good and feel better about yourself and enjoy the holidays and all that, because it is possible. So if anyone wants more information, just send me a DM.
Yes, do it. Because guys, I'm literally going to my company's holiday party in, I think it's next week. And I'm wearing the dress that I wore to my bridal shower. And I was a tiny little stick at that point. So the fact that it fits is like so awesome. And that's one of the things you said. You were like, how would it feel to like be able to go to these holiday parties and all these holiday events and actually get compliments on how you're dressed and how you look? And I was like, that would feel freaking great. But a couple weeks ago, I genuinely was telling myself the story that like I could not enjoy the holidays and also look like a bombshell. But that just wasn't true. Yeah, exactly. Hi, Malia, and thank you guys, everyone who's chiming in. I love it. Keep them coming. So I want to switch gears again, and I would love to know, like, what are some of the most common ways that like people are, full of shit but really don't even realize?
Yeah, so one is I don't have enough money
Hmm.
because, what we prioritize in our budget, we prioritize in our budget. So a lot
Right.
of people are unconscious spending. So they're like, oh, I can't afford a therapy, or I can't afford the gym, or I can't afford whatever health type of stuff, right? That they're interested in. And really, they're just like spending money on Uber Eats or Seamless or, buying coffee in the morning or whatever. So it's really like, I can't afford it. That's a big full of shit um,
Hmm.
situation. And
I'm
it's
guilty
really
of that.
like, oh, we all are. Me too. I just got Uber Eats like 3 times this week.
Okay.
But I know that I'm full of shit about it, and that's
Right.
where it's empowering. So definitely, I can't afford it. And I try to teach people like, what are your top 5 priorities? And is that in alignment with your top 5 spending categories? And if it's
Are we
not,
the same
where,
person?
yeah, I think
Literally,
so.
it's getting scary. It's getting weird, actually.
Oh my goodness. Well, my hair assistant and new school student recommended they referred us, so we're gonna have to let them know that it's getting creepy.
Yeah.
Um, so definitely the money, and then the other area I feel like is really big is I don't have time. I don't have enough time, and it's literally like what I said before about me prioritizing cleaning my apartment. We have to make the time for whatever it is. Like there's literally zero, it's not true at all that we don't
Right.
have time for something like ever. It's literally that like we didn't create the time, right? And we
Absolutely.
weren't solution oriented to get it done. And make enough time in our schedule and follow through with it and outsource or ask for help or push things off that maybe aren't as important. And it doesn't mean work yourself to death. We all need to have integrity about our health, our food, our water, our sleep, our rest. But other than
Right.
that, there's 16 hours in the day. I mean, we can find 10 minutes to start an activity that we really don't want to do.
Absolutely. And I think, a big part of, because that's something that I like really worked on, especially this year, was all my stories about I don't have time. Like, I have become so consciously aware of like what I'm spending my time doing instead of that thing. And when you start to really like zero in on like what you're doing instead, um, like you're able to call yourself out, and you're able to really create more space on your calendar. So one of the things that I've cut back on that I think was extremely helpful for me was I cut back on my screen time. And that seems really overwhelming at first. I was probably using my phone like close to 14 hours a day, which is honestly insane. I mean, part of it is like listening to things all day long because I love listening to like podcasts and stuff. But I challenged myself a couple of months ago to cut my screen time by 60%. So now I'm down to about 4 hours a day. Um, and one of the things that I realized that I was doing that was really getting to be like very time consuming was I was spending a lot of time just chit chatting about nothing with everybody and their mother. And it's like, it wasn't really very productive. I was spending a lot of time just texting about like, hey, what did your dog eat for breakfast? Like, not really that mundane, but like just things that like it wasn't really necessary. And I love small talk, but I would rather be having small talk in person. And I found that it was making it very difficult for me to engage and be a real human being in real life because I was spending so much time on my phone. And just by cutting back on how much I use my phone, I have so much more time. I'm so much more intentional when I use my phone. And I'm also just a lot more personable and happy and fun to be around, I think. Um,
That's amazing.
but it's really incredible how, like, if you really look at some of the habits that you're doing and some of the ways that you're spending your time and your money, um, and you're willing to be really honest with yourself, you'll find that you've got a lot more time and money than you think. Um,
100%. Another thing that popped into my mind, did I cut you off or were you done?
no, no, no.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Another thing that popped into my mind is like, it sounds like cliche and crazy, but it's like we literally can accomplish anything that we want, you know, and like
Right.
literally anything. And there's like no limits, and the only things are self-imposed limits. And it sounds so silly because we're living in this reality like I can't, I can't, I can't, I can't, I can't. And on different levels, because people that and me, I try to do that, and I'm really great about certain things, like, oh, let me just move to a different state and not know how I'm gonna pay my bills and figure it out,
Right.
and like not know anyone and whatever. I want to live on the beach, so I'm gonna make it happen. And but then there's other areas that I might be like stuck in, right? So we all have this ease in certain areas, and then we all have these problems in certain areas. But really recognizing that, calling ourselves out, like when we're full of shit about that too, whenever we have a thought like I can't have it all, I can't have both, I can't make it work. And that's
Mm-hmm.
when we start to like be solution oriented and focus on how, right? And
Right.
start to be creative about it, and start to all that stuff, outsource, ask for help, read about it, you know, listen to podcasts about it, research, all that type of thing. So that's just the one that was the biggest, and I didn't even think about. But the whole like I can't, right? The I can't
Yeah.
epidemic, or um
The only person that's saying I can't, that's actually stopping you from doing what you want, is you. So if you can flip that to I can, you're gonna change your whole damn life.
100%. And it's
Um,
vulnerable to call ourselves out, but once we're okay with it, then it's freedom. I remember like a couple weeks ago, I was eating French fries and I ate the whole plate, and I was like, I can't believe I ate all those French fries. And then I was like, I'm full of shit. Like, I totally can believe I ate all the French fries. Like, why did I
right,
even say that out loud? And we're so used to just like saying things, and maybe it's like a
right,
defense mechanism, like, oh, I can't believe I ate the French fries, like to
right,
try to make myself not feel bad about it or something. But
right.
like, we do that type of stuff all the time, and it's like it's unconscious. And once we start catching
Absolutely.
ourselves, it's freeing.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I constantly find myself, or I used to find myself attacking myself for gaining so much weight over the last year and a half. And somebody said something like, I think it was my friend Carly. I think she was watching earlier, but I think it was my friend Carly. She said something like, "Stop berating yourself because every pound is a happy memory." And like, that was just the cutest way of like reframing it. And like, when I thought about it, I was like, you know what? Yeah, every pound that I gained has a really fun, happy memory attached to it. So no regrets. Like, whatever. And now I have a system to lose it all. So whatever. Who cares?
That's great.
It's
And
part
yeah,
of life.
except if you're like crying over your ice cream, right? That's probably like me in the past. So that probably
Right.
wasn't a happy memory, but all the
Yeah,
rest,
maybe
yeah.
not that. We like to leave that out, but
Awesome.
um, yeah, but oh my God, I cannot believe it's already been 30 minutes. That felt like it was like 2 minutes.
I
Um,
agree.
but we are going to be doing this again, I think next week, but it's going to be
Hmm.
on your feed. So thank you everyone who joined. I loved having you. Stay tuned for part two about calling yourself out on your own shit. Coming to you next week with Ginny. Jenny will be
Poor
joining
clone.
us. um, but yeah, I'm. Thank you so much for for joining me, not for having me.
You're so
Um,
welcome. And I also want to mention really quickly, I'm doing an event for sex and intimacy, and we'll go over
yeah,
that more next week. And I'm going to feature Stephanie on mine. So please, everyone, follow me, send me a DM if you have any questions or about the nutrition program. And it's how to communicate better, heal body image issues, let go of any sexual trauma, and increase pleasure. And that's December 12th and 13th from 5 to 8 p.m. Eastern. And you can register in link in my profile and my bio. Just say that Stephanie referred you. And I'm very excited to continue this with you next week. Thank you so much for having me.
yes, and guys, I just have to say, I went to Fallon's last workshop, and I was like, oh, 5 to 8, that's kind of long. I ended up being so obsessed with it, I stayed the whole time both days. So definitely think about it. It's such a vibe. It's the coolest format of a webinar I've ever seen. And the topics are so interesting. And who doesn't want to learn about sex? I mean, come on. it's it's like wifey season, right? Or whatever they call it. Whatever the kids call it.
Yeah, and even if you think your sex life is great, right? Who knows? There's always maybe some blind spots or some things that could even be better. So It doesn't mean you have to have like a bad sex life or a bad relationship.
Right.
It's just increasing pleasure, because that's the whole point of living, right? So thank you.
Absolutely. Well, I'll talk to you next week, and thank you so much.
Okay.
All
Thank
right.
you. Thank you,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.